Hi, welcome to another episode of Under the Floorboard. We are very grateful, humble to have Andy McGee here, entrepreneur XL, great at anything he touches. Seems as though every time he touches anything, it turns to gold.
This is fantastic. So far, so good.
What a start.
Welcome, Andy.
Thank you. Thank you very
for
much.
coming on.
Thanks very much for joining. Before we go into where you are, we always do this at the beginning. Let's go right back, how it all started. Were you up a chimney, cleaning chimneys?
I was born and raised in the East End of Glasgow, in Denniston. Love it. Still love the place. I'm there every week, to be honest with you. I stayed with my mum. Dad lived right round the corner. My mum didn't really work. She done some cleaning jobs at night and stuff like that, but she was pretty much just raising me full time. Then my mum met my stepfather, moved out to a place called Newt Hill, which is a wee area in Motherwell, great wee place, and lived there for my kind of teenage years and things like that as well. Wasn't necessarily cleaning chimneys, but I wasn't eating caviar either. I did tell a story a while ago, which was we were given the whole EU stew thing, which was the European Union had made a massive surplus of this tinned stew. And it was these blue, I can remember it so vividly, it was these blue cans. And it was basically deprived areas that were getting this for free. So there was a wee bit of the Blue Veil Hall just running in Denniston. And you went round and just got this free stew, basically. So my dad was a bit of a trickster, still is, and he managed to swindle his way around like 6 or 7 times. It was like once that you were allowed to go around.
Hat on.
Aye, it was like just different disguises,
Moustaches,
dreadlocks, you know what I mean? And he kept going round, so we had oodles of this thing. We had a room full of this stew. And I was eating this for years and years and years. Stew birthday cake, stew cereal, stew dinner, you know what I mean? It was just constant. And I remember the one thing I remember with it is that was probably like 1996. And I remember the best before being like 2020 or something silly. It was radioactive, the stuff, you know. But so that was kind of how I was brought up with that. And then obviously moving up to Newt Hill in the later years as well.
And then where did you go for there? So you're at school, you decide, I'm going to do property and be a mogul?
I remember actually moving up because I had a great time I love school, like all through school I loved it. Had a great time at my primary school. I was always like the taller kind of guy, so it was I still had but I was always like kind of bigger than the other kids and stuff. So I remember having this thing that I thought that was cool, and then I got to the new primary school. It was primary 4 I went to, and I just got in so many fights. Like I don't really ever remember it until I think back with this, but I just kept getting in fights because I was the new guy and I was coming for like, oh, he's for Glasgow, we're up here in the Newt Hill, like he's the arsehole. So I was in loads and loads of fights.
Tough,
all that kind of
Back in
stuff.
a big guy, make a name for yourself.
I just remember so many fights, but then I ended up good pals with all of them. Went through high school, loved it, didn't really apply myself, if you will. Just chased tail and had a good laugh, to be honest with you. Had a good laugh with my mates. And then I remember being like, I was always interested in business. I remember being like maybe 14, 15, and there was like business owners I was looking at and stuff and go, oh, that's cool, I'd love to have that kind of lifestyle and stuff. Probably, if I'm being honest, like your kind of Vince McMahon's. I remember like seeing that and going like, that's cool, like he
Big
runs the
suits,
show, and like
struts.
Just the full thing, like the full gig. I loved it. And then left school at 15 before I was 16, just done my exams, get a whatever score at it, terrible. Went to a automotive apprenticeship, so truck mechanics for 2 years. Hated that. It was really dirty and dingy, and you were getting shit pay, and I just knew, like, I was looking at the guys who were qualified and going, there's not really much a good end goal here, you know, that Vince McMahon thought process was getting further and further away. And then my mate was on building sites, so he was a heating engineer, my best mate, he was a heating engineer, and he moved on to be a project manager. And he says, look, why don't you come and become a heating and gas engineer? He says, look, you don't get dirty as dirty. It's way better money, things like that. And it was. So I ended up leaving the truck mechanic gig, went away to become a heating and vent engineer, and was working on sites for 4 years. And at the time, it was a job, so it was good money. I think we were on like £12 an hour or whatever at like 18 or something, 19.
Good money,
which was brilliant. You know, everybody had nice motors and all that. We were at college, and it was good. And you knew you were learning something that was applicable and decent, you know, so you knew, like, do you know what? Regardless of what happens, this is a decent trade to have, you know. But again, I just knew in the back of my mind, I was like, do you know, I want to do something else. So I was buying there used to be a company called Share Centre, might still be about, but I was buying stocks and shares when I was maybe 17.
That was the first investment side of thing coming into play a wee bit.
Aye, kinda. I remember like buying BP, RBS, the post office, and I remember the BP oil spill where I came down the stairs to go to work, and my mum had the TV on, and it was BBC, and it was just like an underwater camera and just oil pissing out, and I thought, oh no, I've lost all my money, probably like 600 quid or something. I had in it. I was like, oh no, I've lost all my money. And I was doing wee things that I thought were the right thing to do. You know, I wasn't really blowing my money on stupid stuff like mental clothes or pissing it up against a wall. I was reinvesting, if you will. And then I started doing a qualification in clinical nutrition because I was bodybuilding at the time. I was training, I was competing. I loved that. And then it kind of led me on to my first business, which was opening up a gym. Decided just to take the ultimate plunge and wrap the safe day job that I was making a lot of money at, and just thought, this isn't for me, you know. There was people there who were like 60, 65, coming back for retirement, working in a boiler room, welding, complaining about how they hated their day in, their day out. There's probably a million sectors that is the same. In the office, this is shit. It's a terrible job. I'm not getting anywhere. It's the same in every sector. But I just pinpointed that, and I was like, I can't be 30, 40, 50, 60 and still have that mindset and still just be coming to work and hating every day. So I thought there has to be something else.
And when you got to, and we'll keep going where it becomes massive, but when you get to that, I'm doing clinical, how do you get to in your head, I'm going to buy a gym? Because that's quite a big step.
I mean...
BP started making some good money.
BP started making dough. BP, for some reason, it went up, still is. I think that I was always thinking the more I do, the more I can do. So the fact that I was so physically active allowed me to be more mentally active. And I think where my real skill set and focus and benefit lies nowadays is being able to do so many things with my day and structure as many things as I can. I think that was all because, like, you wake up and you're in the morning, you're going and you're doing your cardio at 6 a.m. and then you've got a weight training session, and then all your meals are regimented. You know how many calories you're taking in, you know what times you're eating, you know what supplements you're taking. And that's where the structure, I think personally, of business and operations came from, was that. When it came to actually taking the plunge and deciding I'm going to go for this, I didn't really have any major business skill sets, if you will. I just had these attributes that transferred over pretty well. But I just knew that if I open up a gym, then I can at least do something I love day in and day out. And that was probably the biggest straw. It wasn't necessarily like, oh, I can make a ton of money doing this, because I didn't really know how much money you could make, to be honest. It was just like, I know that I will be happy doing this every day, and other people will then see that and buy into that.
And what age were you then?
22. So I started the heating and vent job when I was 18, did a 4-year apprenticeship, was working up in St Andrews at the time, leaving at 5 a.m. to drive up to St Andrews to pick up the rest of the guys, leaving the job at probably 4:30, 5, getting back down the road at 7, 7:30, training to about 8, 9, and then going home to wake up for like 4:30 the next day, and just decided, no, I'm leaving that. So that was 22 when I left that. And then over the space of maybe 5 or 6 months, found a premises, sold my car, had some like 800 quid personal. Had a Tesco credit card that had about a grand limit on it, personal. Decided, right, okay, I can get a deposit together for a premises. I can source gym equipment. I can do some marketing. Like, I remember seeing, I was clearing out all my emails recently, and I was getting people to send me videos about how they want to join the gym and blah blah blah, and just building up some like marketing buzz, like way back in 2012, you know. And just trying to like get all that together for the launch. And then we launched in April the 15th, 2013.
Was that the first kind of, obviously you're in that commercial unit, was that the first kind of thing we thought property? Was that further down the line, or how does that come into it?
Property wise, I would say the business started in 2013 of April. Probably we were reinvesting loads and loads of money back into it. Was working for way less than minimum wage. Was working about 120 hours a week. Didn't really care at the time because I was living with my mum. Had minimal overheads, stuff like that. So it was the best time to do it. Looking back on it, I'd say if you're watching this and you're living with your parents and you want to start a business, like, do it now, because it's probably the best possible time in your life to do it.
Like, even if you fail, you still got a roof over your head. And that kind of sense, like, you've like go for it, you've nothing really to fear. You
might not have kids, you've definitely not got a mortgage, like your adult commitments are very minimal, and I think that's the best time to do it. But I think when we started making a wee bit of money in the gym business, and I was just kind of saving, I had a wee pot of about like 25 grand or something I had at the time, and I was thinking, what should I do with this? I didn't really want to buy like a fancy car or anything. At the time, we didn't really think about setting up another gym at the time. And I don't know what pulled me to property, other than the fact of just knowing, like, oh, people that have a lot of money buy properties. You know, like property, being a quote-unquote landlord or property investor, makes money, and it has done since Jesus was kicking about, you know. So I was like, right, okay, I'll find a property. And to be fair, the first property I bought was in 2014. Great location, Bothwell, which is where I live there now. 2-bedroom, end terrace. I bought it for 80,200, and I think the home report was 80,000. And it's been rented ever since.
That was simple,
Since
buy,
2013.
shove something in it and rent it out.
It was literally, my thought process was, my skill set and knowledge of this is super minimal. How do I get a return quickly? How do I get the property rental ready? Buy it when it's rental ready, and buy it for home report value. Had no idea about like below market value, finance, anything. I just thought it was save up money, get a mortgage, buy the property, and get somebody in it.
Repeat a wee bit. Was that the first one you thought, right, I'm onto something here with property, or was there a different deal you thought, actually, it's a better way to do it rather than buying £200 over home report? I mean, you can still do that. Like, you can still buy it at home report and slightly over and still make the return that you want. There's nothing against that, but there's also different ways of doing it and scaling to
I think
you have.
I think as I get more experienced in running a business and operating the gym business, I get more experienced in understanding of just business in general. And I remember how much active income the gym business required. I had to be there on the gym floor in the very beginning. I had to be there on the gym floor. I had to be delivering sessions. That was a trade-off of my time and my manual ability to do these things. Whereas I remember getting that property, and I started getting a rental income coming in every single month and a net profit after it was paying the mortgage, etc. So I was like, wow, this is extremely scalable, you know, and I could be on holiday, I could be anywhere, and I could be making money. Whereas the gym business at the time was set up where I had to really be there and oversee it. Whereas the property, I just bought it and forgot about it and just get the check. So that's what I was like, there's arms and legs in this.
Yeah. So it's 2013, you're running the gym.
Yeah.
You've got a property.
Yeah.
Then what? By the way, at that point, you could just say, I'm just going to sit and do nothing because I'm good.
No, he's not Vince McMahon yet. He's not got the big suit.
That's true. I wasn't Vinnie Mac as of yet.
I don't know if you want to be Vince McMahon.
Nowadays, looking back on it nowadays, it might not be the best.
The money and the success.
Model.
It might not be the best choice. But I got that property. Definitely wanted to get more property for sure. But on the flip side, we had also set up a training academy business. One of my PT clients, believe it or not, came into the gym. He was, I think, 55 at the time, roughly, about 55-year-old. and I was extremely motivated, positive, and probably caffeinated at the time. And he's like, you need to be like, there's something we can do here. He was working as a director of a work-based learning company, probably one of the biggest in the UK at the time. And he's like, would you not be interested? Like, you know so much about nutrition and health and fitness. Would you not be interested, like, teaching this and educating people on this? And I was like, well, I'm kind of doing it with the gym. He's like, no, but this could be like something different. So we set up a company at the time to deliver level 2 gym instructor qualifications, level 3 personal trainer qualifications. I started writing the qualifications for SQA, doing my own tweaks and changes and things like that were then published and delivered, basically based on everything I'd written, which was great and very, looking back on it, you don't really think about it at the time, but very vindicating to say, wait a minute, this guy actually competes as a bodybuilder, does decent on the local circuits. I was second in the country a few times, top 5 in the UK. Humble brag. But then he's also delivering and writing the qualifications that are being taught in other gyms and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, that's right, massive. Okay, so I'm kind of onto something here. Gym business is going, employing staff, building that, growing the membership base, making more money here, seeing the net profit go up and up and up, and building another wee pot to fire a full fucking home report property again, you know, building up that deposit to go, yeah, home report, I'll go for that. That sounds great. And then got my second property, which was right at the entrance of the gym industrial estate, right across the road.
All right.
Craigneuk Street, literally could have hit it with a stone, and it just came up. One of the guys in the gym, his friend was selling it, who was a local flooring guy, big floor company, and it was immaculate. Again, the thing of like, it's rental ready. I don't have to do a refurb. I don't have to like think about it.
Proper turnkey, just get it on.
Buy it, get it tenanted. And by that point, I had a management company that was just good to go. So I just knew as soon as I gave them units, they would get it tenanted, and then I could go again. You know, it was just the way I was doing it was pretty slow, with obviously building up the funds and then buying it at home report.
That's what I was going to say. You're using the profit from the gym and the other property to buy this one. Yeah. And then you're starting again and again and again.
Aye, so a very slow process. The only good thing was, I think in 2021 I refinanced everything, which at the time there was a decent amount of equity in it because I'd bought it all at home report, really. You know, and like I could turn around and do that. But very slow in the beginning. Another way I would do it if I was starting back nowadays.
And then, so where are you? So I've counted a property company, counted a training company. When you get bored, you're writing the SQA exams, right? For bodybuilding, right? Yeah. No pressure. Anything else? Jesus.
So at that time, this is one I'd never really bring up, to be honest, but at that time, we were buying sports supplements from other companies and selling them in the gym. Made sense. People wanted protein, pre-workouts, fat burners, creatine, blah, blah, blah. Me being me, I'm sitting there and I'm like, right, okay, cool. We're buying this for these other companies. We're making the other companies money. Why don't we just start our own supplement company? How do you do that? How do you figure that out? So we ended up, the gym probably at that point was self-sufficient, where I could be there a couple hours a week and it still runs well, it still grows. Again, that's where maybe the business skills, as opposed to the just passion project of opening a gym, where the business skills were really coming into place, and I was like, right, I'm learning these other things that are applicable in a number of different fields. When it came to the supplement side of things, I knew that protein powder was super popular, fat burners were popular, pre-workout, etc. I just didn't know how to start making it. So we got a branding team in place, started a company called Athletic Generation, got a branding team in place, tied in with companies called Kalina now, but it's actually Muller. They were based in Germany at the time. They've got a place in Bells Hill now, but for the whey production, they were the top of the pops. Like, they were number one, as you can imagine. Tied in with them to find out what their minimum order quantities were for white labeling stuff, and using our own proprietary blends. Because I had done the clinical nutrition degree, I had a really good understanding of what works and what doesn't work when it comes to pre-workouts, when it comes to fat burners, like what real products work and what real ingredients work. So I started to formulate these in the back end and make sure that the manufacturers and the suppliers could then deliver that. So I'm going to go out on a limb, and everyone who had bought and tried it would agree, we had easily the best pre-workout formula on the market. And that's including like the super big boys. We were selling this pre-workout not only in the gym, we started to sell it in a load of other like supplement shops. Other gyms were buying it. Loads of people online were buying it. We're getting people from down south, everywhere. It was called Bulletproof. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it was called Bulletproof is because when you took it, you felt as though you were fucking bulletproof. Like, this stuff was phenomenal. So that was the best seller. Like, Black Friday and everything for us was bananas. But again, it was kind of cool. You don't think at the time, but looking back on it now, it was really cool to look back and go, well, actually, that's your formula. And that's like your own, you've put the stuff in that product to sell it.
You actually kind of like downplay two mega things there. One, you're writing exams and how to actually become a PT for SQA, like actual governing bodies for that. And then you're making actual formulas for like pre-workouts and whatever else. Like, that's, to me, I'm looking at it outside in going, that's yours. Be like, so we've done that. We've done that, just be things, They're massive, like,
I mean, the supplement thing,
almost trailblazing kind of things to do,
Yeah. How are you competing with the big guys? Because on supplements, because there's like huge companies that've been doing this their whole life, and they're sitting with labs, 20,000 labs and stuff like that.
Well, we ended up, we brought in a consultant, Lisa, and Lisa used to work she was basically number 2 in a company that worked for the Hut Group. So the Hut Group were the company that acquired MyProtein.
Oh, yeah.
And MyProtein was ran by a guy called Oliver Cookston or something. And she basically sat under him and moved their strategic positions for what they were going to do, etc. So at one point, we actually brought in Lisa for a number of months to work with me on a one-to-one basis to say, right, here's how we grow this, here's how we scale it, things like that. Our biggest kind of bottleneck in that business wasn't getting the amount of sales through. It was really like the minimum order quantities became so bananas that the bringing a product to market was huge. I remember like we thought at one point, we're like, do you know what? We're doing amazing with pre-workout. We're doing amazing with fat burners as well. Let's look at bars to then go and compete against like a Grenade and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
We chapped so many doors to find out how we could do this. The minimum order quantities were coming back at, I think it was 330,000 bars of one flavour. That was the MOQ. So if you were looking to enter the market, let's say you get a bar for 30 pence or 50 pence a bar, right? That's 100 to 150 grand that you're shelling out on one flavour to hope that the market likes that flavour. And if it doesn't like that flavour, you've got 150k worth of stock there sitting. Now, again, looking back on it and knowing what I know now with finance and commercial finance and stuff, I had a meeting today where I get there's loads of invoice finance, asset finance, blah, blah, blah. There's loads of these things that I probably could have done to push it, but I just didn't have the knowledge back then to do it, So we just stuck with what we liked and what we enjoyed, and that was the stuff that was selling. And we just scaled it to gyms and things like that. The thing that kind of halted that business a wee bit, some people will remember David Cameron brought in a taxation on sports supplements, protein supplements and such specifically, which was 2017, 18, I think. Everybody's heard of the sugar tax, knows the sugar tax and things like that. But he brought in a tax on supplements because he realised that people were getting fit and healthy and they're not making money off it.
He could make money
off that. Can't have that. Let's tax them. So pretty much overnight, the raw ingredients, I think it was like tripled, maybe 3.5 times the amount that it cost. You used to be able to get like a kilo of protein raw for like maybe say £4. And then overnight it became like 12, 15 quid or whatever.
Oof.
So that was really tough on guys like us that were smaller retailers, because the big boys can eat that a wee bit because they've got the customer database and things like that, and they can just kind of push that. Us then having to double and triple in such a prices became problematic. So that just sat then as a lifestyle business rather than something we could really scale and really grow. And by that time, as I said, I'd wanted to open more gyms and stuff anyway, and buy more properties.
Is that still open in that?
The supplement company? The supplement company is still sitting there as an entity, but we're not necessarily doing any major trading with it, to be honest.
So then you've done that, right? I'm getting tired here. Right? So you've done that. You got a couple of properties. You've been sitting on a Sunday writing qualifications for PTs. You've got a gym going. What age are you?
So at that time, say 2018, I'd have been 28 at the time, 27, 28 at the time.
And then where you're going, you said you've got multiple gyms now. What happens then?
So our next thing was like the gym business we had in Wishaw was coming to capacity. Such a great business. We had over 1,000 members in there at one point, which is bananas. Like it was a great business. And we're like, right, okay, we'll take the unit next door and we'll expand because we needed it. The place was packed out every night. So we took the unit next door, done a full refurbishment on that, doubled the size, etc. This was May 2019. Had a big grand opening and everything. It was going amazing. And then, as we all know...
I know, when they say the year, they're like, I recognise that year.
When we look at timelines, May is the 5th month of 2019. If we fast forward, another 8 months, we had the lockdown. So I actually remember being December of 2019, and me and my missus had just moved into a house in Boddle. Nice wee property, first house. She kept saying to me, this was actually annoying me at the time, she kept saying, what's going on with this thing in China? This was like December. And I'm like, nothing. Stuff happens there all the time.
Do you know how far China is away from here?
Stuff happens there all the time, whatever. And then the narrative was pushing and pushing. And then it got to a stage where January time, February time, gym members are kind of going, are we going to have to close down or something? I was like, nah, it'll never happen, whatever. And then I remember March the 20th, 2020, it was a Friday night, and I remember sitting in the house at 7 p.m, and Boris Johnson shows up at 7 p.m. on a Friday night.
It's never good news.
Which is never good news, no. And I'll allude to another time frame as well that actually sits with that. He shows up and he's like, it's game time. Like, shut your gym, shut your pub, shut everything. We're locked in. So... the next day, I'm not built to be an avid runner, right? But I could run a no bad wee distance. But the next day, I ran 16 and a half mile or something, more than I'd ever ran in my life. And I fully put that down to just stress and...
In your head, just trying, what the fuck's going on?
My wife came out for a run and we did 5K and she dipped out back in the house. I says, I'm going to keep going. I might just do 10K. She phoned me.
Go see Boris.
Aye, she phoned me.
Do you stop when you're in Edinburgh? Is it like Forrest Gump?
she phoned me 3 hours later saying, where are you? The electrician's here that you were supposed to be in by. I was like, I'm coming back up for the Forge in Glasgow to fucking Bothwell. And so basically, we were told to shut the business 2020. I had a conversation with the staff that week to basically say, look, here's what I think is going to happen. Here's the position we're in. I know as much as you guys know because I'm not getting anything privy direct for number 10 that you aren't.
Aye.
It's the scariest time for a business owner is to shut their business, especially when it's through no fault of their own. That's the more annoying thing. It's like, doesn't matter how well the business was doing, how many right things you were doing, how many boxes you were ticking, you get that took away for you, no for your fault. You know, like no for anything you've done. So we just took on that unit. That had kind of scuppered us a wee bit. To be honest, what I will say, maybe slightly controversial here, I think that the government at the time played a blinder for businesses because we got furlough, we got certain means of grants, bounce back loan availability, blah, blah, blah. And then realistically, again, I kind of just sit on my hands. I was like, how can we be proactive here? So we started delivering sessions online. Mm-hmm. We fed back to all the members and says, guys, look, we know we're going to be closing here. If you want to come and pick up loads of kit, like you can do it as long as you keep your membership running. Just take one item so you can do stuff in the house, blah, blah, blah. We only really thought it was going to be for 2 weeks in the beginning, as everybody did.
Yeah.
So we kept delivering sessions online, had great support. I think we retained about 95% of people still paying their membership.
Wow.
That shows the kind of community we had at the time there and that as well. And then we were shut for a total of 13 months. So it was a really, really long time when you think about it. There was a period of being opened and then it was closed down again for Christmas. It was only supposed to be a couple of weeks, months. So we just had to navigate through all of that, and I think that it's probably the only time that I've no lost sleep, but I remember like struggling to get to sleep at night with just all that going in my head, and I sleep like a baby. Like I've never get any problem. I head hits the pillow and I'm gone 5 minutes later. But it was the only time where I was like, it felt a wee bit us versus them, i.e. staff against me.
Aye.
Because they were looking to me to say, when are we opening? What's going on? When's the furlough payments coming through? How much is it going to be? Are you getting a grant? How do you know? Is there availability for the bounce back thing? What will it be like when we reopen? I'm like, guys,
I don't know anything.
These are questions that it's impossible for me to answer. We're going to have to put up these screens and they matter. We're going to have to move all the kits so it's 2 meters away from each other. Are we still going to be able to do classes? I'm like,
will I ever
knows?
get my rowing machine back?
Aye.
Somebody's
I'm like,
borrowed.
One of those
knows?
ones where you're probably been in a position for so long that obviously you've learned all this, and then you're now applying, like, come back to that knowledge, you're applying for like this QA and all these other things you're doing because you're the forefront of this, you've got the answers. So it's probably the first time in your life you went, I've not got a fucking clue, I've not got an answer to give anybody here, and that probably worried you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm great at delegating and things and scaling things, but I'm also a control freak to a certain standpoint. And when the controls completely took away from you, to which case you can influence it zero, it's very scary. The one thing I would say is, and this is definitely a tag that I'll take to my grave, property really kept me afloat during that time, because by that point I think I had maybe 5 or 6 properties or something. And they were still cash flowing, they were still paying rent.
I was going to say they still pay the rent, because that obviously maybe affected their jobs as well, but they actually had things.
They were still paying the rent, they were not a payment was missed. And again, looking at it, I was like, it's going to sound bananas here, right? But we were closed, still operating, they were delivering online sessions. I'm like, right, there's opportunity here as well. What can I do? How can I level up with knowledge? So I done a mini MBA during the time as well of COVID. Done all that, like, went back to...
Why not?
Why not? I mean, I started to learn how to do 5K during COVID, and this guy's...
went back to my kind of thought process of the more knowledge I can attain, the more money I can probably make. So did a mini MBA, looked at where the property market was going at the time, and I was like, prices are sky high here for all of these properties. That means that my valuations of these properties is probably going to be sky high as well, in line with the market. Let's go and refinance all the properties that I've got. And as I said, I bought some in 2014 that were like 80 grand for a Bodle 2-bedroom house. I managed to get some cracking money out of all of those properties. Now, as you can imagine, we were still profitable at the time as a business. We were still getting a lot of government support at the time, etc., etc. I'll let you draw your own conclusions to things of that nature. But let's just say I was able to have a lot of money to buy a lot of property. So I then refinanced everything, started buying loads of property during COVID time as well. Was showing up at viewings, was new people who had property deals and things like that. So I was buying. And I remember it was funny because it was like we had to line up at Lidl's to go in, and I'm standing there with my wife, and she's like, I think I showed her like the account. It was as you've both done it, you've got hundreds of thousands of pounds in the account, and you look, it's fucking great, and then you do the transfer, and then you show it, and it's like an hour later, and you've got 30 quid left in it, you know. And I was standing in a Lidl's car park, and I was like, we just bought like 200 grand worth of property there within the space. And she's like, what the fuck, blah blah blah. And I was like, look, this will make sense, you know.
I'll come back eventually.
Aye, this will make sense. So I was actively buying during that time as well, and obviously in the background, making sure the gym business was still secure. I was hand delivering protein supplements during lockdown. So I was like going out with Athletic Generation bags of like protein bars and this and that, and driving away up to shot somebody and fair play to them. They've done amazing for supporting us, but they were fucking in the back end of shots. I was driving up to the arse end of shots every other day and hand delivering it. So just trying to keep going during that time. And then obviously we reopened in 2021, 2022 or something. I think it was 2021 actually.
And how many properties were you buying? Were you buying one every 3 months?
Every 3 days we sound it.
I think I'd maybe bought during that 13-month lockdown. I want to say I maybe bought 4 units. I think 4 or 5 units at a time.
Good.
And it was all like decent. So I've still got all. I've never sold anything that I've ever bought. It was all decent stock, and again, getting them tenanted quickly, getting them cash flowing quickly. That's still at a time where I don't think I was buying anything at a major discount or anything. You know, I never really started that strategy until like 2021, 2022. I was just still buying things at Home Report.
So gym reopens?
Gym reopens September 2021. I remember the exact date, September 2021. We had our biggest month ever, as you can imagine. Subsequently, just a couple of months before that, Scottish Government said that gyms can reopen outside. Now, bit of an oxymoron because Scottish Government, Scottish weather, outside gyms, it's not the Caribbean.
Doesn't go.
But
they're going to be hard people that are attending that gym.
Fucking November or whatever.
Well, just worn face. But we thought, right, okay, how can we do this and how can we cover it? So I bought a couple of big 40-foot containers that opened at the side. Bought 2 40-footers. Spoke to my mate who's a scaffolder. I says, can you build us like a scaffolding roof across these? And how far can you do it with tarpaulin and blah, blah, blah? So we ended up we had a massive car park outside and we got 2 big 40-foot containers, fired the gym machines in it so that they were open so that people could access them. We had the spray, wipes, blah, blah, all that jazz. But we put a massive, I think it was maybe something, it might have been about 60 foot across the roof. So we built a scaffolding roof, tarpaulined it, put the kit underneath it, and we were operating for a good 3 months as an outdoor gym. Now, we got an influx of members because everybody was stuck in the house, and their gym owner didn't want to do that. Whereas we're like,
just thinking outside the box, technically.
We're like, here's the kit. Like, oh, you've not used a bench press or a incline press machine for months. We've got one here. And if it's a sunny day, great. If it's pissing down, it's a nightmare, which it was. But they were coming up and joining. So come September time, when it was reopen time, we had our best month ever.
Because I imagine people are coming out the back of COVID. I wasn't here, but the people coming out the back of COVID are probably well overweight and probably alkies. Right,
100%,
and they're like that. There's a gym.
Yeah,
I can fix this in a winter.
Yeah,
and it's like January every month.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was just it was the whole supply and demand thing. Like, we're deprived for so long, and now they need to get fit and healthy. So our business boomed during that time as well in September. And again, I still had the same staff, because we put them on furlough and stuff like that. And then I just basically went right back into doing what I was doing.
Well, have you still got the gym?
So that gym in Wishaw closed in the 5th of February 2024. So we had that gym for 11 years. And that was one of the things I was telling you about, the process of closing down that business. We were coming up for a lease renewal. We had a lease renewal in year 5, and we took the unit next door. Everything was hunky-dory. We got a lease renewal for another 5 years. Landlords were great, whatever. In that time frame, from year 5 to year 11, it would have been, we opened up another gym in Rutherglen. So there's another gym site. Got a guy to do the negotiations, all that. Knew a lot more. Was able to crack on. Came time to do the renegotiations for the Wishaw site, and our key negotiator, a guy called Stephen as well. Stephen says, "You realise all the park's been painted, or the industrial estate?" And I was like, that was weird. Like, they'd never done that in 11 years of us being there. And he says, you had somebody in coming in and asking about like EPC ratings and all that. I says, I thought that was weird as well. He says, so the site's been sold. And I went, all right, okay. I says, how do you think this? So this was in the December time, middle of December. Our lease was due for renewal come April time, like tail end of March, April time. He says, it's been sold to a Jersey pension consortium. And I says, all right, think that will help us or hinder us in this? And he's like, realistically, I think it will probably hinder you, Andrew.
End you, aye.
And I went, all right, okay. I says, so are we the first ones in the park coming up for renewal? And he says, aye, you'll be the first ones dealing with the new landlords. So I was like, right, okay. So we had a profitable business, working really well, systems in place. At that point, I had an hour a week involvement, if you're lucky, if that. And I got to the table and the lease renewal came up, and we were paying 20 grand a year for the 2 premises, right? Very good. It was in back end of Wishaw. The company turned around and says, yeah, we'll renew your lease, no problem at all. It's going to be 39,800 per annum, and we are not going to do any improvements that you've asked of us because the place was falling apart inside, the roof was fucked, there was loads of stuff that was just problematic. We're not willing to do that, and if you don't want to go ahead with it, we've got the courier company willing to come in the current condition and pay basically 40 grand a year, which you were currently paying 20. And I'm like, so you're doubling the rent and you're not willing to do any improvements at all?
Sounds like a winner.
They're like, yep, that's exactly what we're doing. So I was like, fuck that, not a chance. So we started to have a look about and like see what's available. We went to another one in Wishaw at the main street above a semi-chem. We went over to Hamilton, Dazzle. We went to Bells Hill Main Street. We're basically just trying to find another premises because we had like all these members, all this staff, all this equipment and everything. But
so it's like a case of trying to keep it local to your current
so they can
members
still
as
access
well.
it, yeah, because with the gym business, you're geographically mapped to where you are, so that has to be within the vicinity. But on the flip side, it started to get very realistic that timing wise was going to be a problem, because you think about it, let's say we found a premises, right? We're into like start of January at that point, nothing happens in December, start of January at that point. Now you're going to have to apply for change of use to go from a class 5 to a class 11. You're also going to have to get building control to come in and sign off on it as well. And if anybody's ever dealt with building control,
yes,
North Lanarkshire, South Lanarkshire, their time frame, they're not in a hurry. They're not in a hurry for much.
A joy to work
Right,
with, I think I would like to say for the camera. A joy to work with.
These have been great. They're not in a hurry, and they don't give a shit about your timelines, and they don't give a shit if you can't open. So our landlords at the time were pressing us like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? We're like, well, we're arguing with them back and forth. We're like, we need a middle ground here. Just wasn't happening. And then they hit us with, this was the mid-January, like the third week in January. They're like, right, okay, do you know what? You've not done a renewal yet. Here's a £55,000 dilapidation cost to get the place back to what it was like when you first got it, which, by the way, was a shithole, because we had the schedule of condition, everything wrote out of what it was like, the amount of improvements we made. Get it back to looking like a shithole, it's going to cost you 55 grand. For this letter we're sending you, it's £4,000 plus VAT. See, you've been paying your rent monthly for the past 11 years. We want the next 3 months up front the now. So it was the best part
Just
of
try to force you basically and shaft you.
60 odd grand, right, that they were hitting us with. Now, as I say, don't get me wrong, it was a profitable business, it was doing well. But I looked at that and I was like, 60 grand to have no premises to go to have effectively no gym and no business.
Yeah.
So sat down with my accountant and he's like, you're being stuck between a rock and a hard place here, and you're kind of fucked. And even the guy that sources as the commercial property is like, your timing's not going to work here. Now, I could have says, staff, members, we've got a new place, but it's opening in June. Will you stick about? The staff are like, well, how are we going to get paid? So we're not going to stick about. A lot of members will be like, we'll stick about. A lot of them will also be like, we'll no stick about.
Aye.
You know,
they're
so
still going to find somewhere in that 3-4 months to still do what they need to do.
Exactly.
And then maybe getting just in that kind of routine.
So it was a massive gamble for us to then also pay 60 grand out for nothing. So we effectively had to close the business down at that point. Wasn't viable for us to stay open.
Well,
so again, two hardest times as a business owner is COVID and having to shut down your business. So I'm thinking, right, what's the best possible way? How do I analyse this and get out of this in the best possible position? It was to make sure that the members weren't being fucked over and to make sure that staff weren't being fucked over. So memberships came off like the start of the month. I instructed memberships to be refunded. Done them on a way where we were closing the business down on the Tuesday. I told the memberships to be reversed on the Monday night so that people weren't going like, what the fuck's going on here? I talked about Boris at 7 p.m. on the Friday. I show up with my laptop bag to my key guy, to the staff that were there. I told all the staff to get there. It's at 9 p.m. on a Monday night. They obviously realised this isn't good.
Aye.
Showed up,
You
sat
don't
down.
see Andrew at 9 o'clock in a
I know.
night like
We
that.
see him for a month.
Aye, we barely see Andrew anyway, and he's got a fucking laptop bag pulling up in the big fucking Rangy on a Monday night. Pulls up, gets him up the stairs, and I was like, guys, good news and bad news. Good news is you'll be paid for your holidays you're due, you'll be paid for the work that you've done, you'll be paid for any overtime you've done. Bad news is we're going to have to close effective immediately tomorrow morning. That will be it. At the time we're having this meeting, members are messaging in, hi guys, my membership came back in, is everything okay, what's going on, blah blah blah, and we had to shut the business down.
Whoa.
Just
You know,
overnight.
overnight after 11 years of blood, sweat and tears and building the place up for 120-hour work weeks to nothing, to zero.
And how was that with the sleep and everything again? You was back to that whole sleepless night, so
Starting to run marathons at that point.
I ran from England.
Forrest Gump. Just kept running.
I woke up in Wales and I have no idea how I got there. But to be honest with you, going back to the thinking outside the box and having other businesses and other properties, if the gym business was my sole business and the sole way I made money, I would have been fucked because all my eggs would have been in one basket. At the time, definitely at the time, property, I was quote unquote financially free. So my bills were being paid for property. I had surplus there from property. I didn't have to necessarily work a day in and day out. So I didn't have the same level of oh shit that I would have if I solely only had the gym. I look back on it and it's actually a good thing because anybody that I spoke to, especially staff-wise and all that, spoke to him for like weeks after it, they were all like, thanks so much for that. Like, I'm glad you took care of us. Members were like, look, you done the right thing. Because I spoke to them individually if I met them or whatever. They're like, our money came back in, all that. You could have just fucked us over. And as a business owner, I've spoke to a few business owners who are in way higher positions. One of the guys was turning over multi-millions. Had a conversation with him the next week and I felt a bit sheepish about it. And I was like, I had to shut down that business and liquidate it and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, is that your first one? And I'm like, and he's like, that's what happens.
Part and parcel almost.
He says, so if the business doesn't work, he says, that's why you've got the option to shut down the business and you can start another business. I'm like, okay, so realistically, all that was just learning more skills as a business owner and widening your bandwidth of durability and tolerance.
I mean, you would have been through a lot of that as well from... Because one thing hiring somebody in and giving that opportunity, yeah, you can go in, you can start here, memberships coming in, yeah, you know, fitness journeys, whatever else, but then to turn around and say to these people who you've built a relationship with, giving opportunities to them, went, I see tomorrow, like, it's done. Like, it's kind of a tough conversation. It can't be an easy conversation to have, obviously. And then,
yeah.
But I think when you look back on, you're probably thinking, right, how do I do right by everybody else? Because it probably would have been some people in the same position would have went, fuck it, just keep the memberships and we'll just, you're done tomorrow, I can't pay for your holidays and whatever else you're due, but you've actually tried to do right by everybody else that's in there, so it's commendable in that kind of way. But
I could have made way more money by taking that full month's membership fee and just fucking off. Could have made tens of thousands more, but you only get one last name. And
karma's coming back to boot you, right, boss?
Karma's coming back to boot you. You've only got one name, you know, so it's just that it wouldn't have been worth the money at all, you know.
So then at that point, your property business, I'm pushing into properties now, growing, and to what point?
Yeah, so I think at that point, had way over £1 million in the portfolio. I was still actively buying. I think, did I buy one maybe a month after the closure of the gym business? Again, how it's such a different business that still is flourishing and growing, but not having all my eggs in that one basket. My my thought process was that I wanted to scale and continue to grow the property business. We still had the training academy business, sits there, we're still growing. We get contracts with a couple of decent employers and things like that. So that actually started to boom, still is booming. And I still, at the time, had the other gym business, which was in Rutherglen. So that was still operating and everything, still going. I never, I think I delivered one session in there ever. That was staffed and going. So that was still making money and still going just as a business. But I just knew property was really my passion, my key passion. And I wanted to basically scale to, I had this weird thing of like 30. I wanted to get to 30 properties, you know. And then as I started to maybe learn more strategies and get around people that were in property in like 2024, the start of 2024, I started to buy at discount. I started to get all money out deals. I started to do refurbs. And I was like, fuck 30. Let's go for 100 plus, you know. I could get 30 fucking 2 years' time. So I started to really push property more, you know. And I done like my first big refurb, which was an all money out deal. And also having more conversations, because you're always so closed off, I think. For me anyway, like property, I was always just doing it myself and didn't really know anybody else. And like it was such an anomaly if he buys property as well. Such an anomaly because I was never in the circles, you know. And then when you speak to people that are in the same circles, you're actually like, oh, wow, you actually know a wee bit about this, or even business. It's like you speak to people who might run businesses way bigger, and they're coming to you for guidance and knowledge and stuff. And I'm like, right, okay, so I've got a wee skill set here. So that's when I just thought, right, I'm gonna scale this, doing a bit of service accommodation, as I say, doing like my first big refurb and stuff like that as well. And that's really what I want to push.
And are you sourcing them yourself, or what are you doing? Do you find them, refurb them yourself? Do you do everything? What do you do?
So refurb wise, I just built up a decent team. People ask me like, where do you get your deals from? I would say twofold. Boots on the ground, extremely active. Chapping doors, knocking doors, speaking to agents, stuff like that. I bought a lot off agents before, so there is agents that will just bring me stuff and say, look, this is going to fall through. It has fell through. We need this moving. And I've only bought off a one sourcer before, which has been fine, no problem at all. But everything else I've just found myself, just with a bit of tenacity and just finding the deals. And then really knowing, like, having confidence in your own knowledge as well. So like the refurb that I done, my first big refurb, if you will, was in Wishaw. Bought the property for 85 grand. It was worth 110 at the time of the home report. It was an EPC rating of G. There was several damp issues. There was no gas central heating. It was all electric.
So talk about that, because also you've actually just went from, just we think about it, turnkeys, nothing needing done, maybe compliance and stuff, but nothing needing done to damp and everything else. Like, how was that transition? Because that was your first big one. I'm assuming you would have done like wee things like maybe kitchens and.
I think my biggest refurb was like $3,000 before that.
Aye. All right.
Yeah.
So
and could you couldn't mortgage that house? And did it have a kitchen stuff? Just
my first time walking into Bridging, which was an interesting.
So big massive
story.
refurb, first time in Bridging. Christ, man, talk us through that. What was the learnings from that?
Jesus.
Yeah. So I knew.
Let's stop you actually before that. Let's take a wee ginger shot, because I think we're getting mistakes. I want to see the tears come down with you when you.
Sponsored by Starbucks.
No for much longer.
Source of vitamin C. I've been to Starbucks already today, so this is I'm going to try and get a sponsorship with them. Right, I've never tried a ginger shot in my fucking life.
It's very good for you. It's
that's
cleansing.
When you're talking about your learnings from the Bridging, you want to cry a little bit about Bridging, you can blame it on the ginger shot. So
it feels like I'm taking a shot
or the
you can smell it
in the back of your throat. You'll feel.
Oh Jesus!
Right.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, mate. No.
Beautiful.
No.
Oh wow!
Only one that enjoys
Feel
it.
the warmness. It's like whiskey.
It is like whiskey. It hits you worse than it smells, to be honest.
Yeah, that's like whiskey.
I don't like whiskey.
That's like whiskey. I used to drink whiskey. Never again after that. So that was as painful as a refurb. So the refurb, the bridging. At that point, I joined a property networking group. I'm not sure what I can say in here. If I could say names, I can't say. Joined This Is Wealth group in January 2024. Now, I had never seen anybody doing refurbs or bridging or whatever. Once you get in these groups, once you see what's happening, you're like, right, okay, this can be done. You know, guys that we all know that are buying 100 properties and fucking buying up half a sterling, right? We all know, right? So I'm like, right, I need to just get some balls here and start going aggressive. So that property was brought to me from an agent who had bought the previous one off. That the previous one I got for 78, spent $3,000 on it, and within the space of 2 months got 110 valuation on it. So I was like, wow, that was a great deal. Pulled a wad of my money out. It's rented at $950 a month. Wishaw, great. Then I was like, right, okay, got this pot of dough here. Same agent sends me a WhatsApp. He says, by the way, see that one you really liked that I had sold? It's fallen through. Do you want it for 85? I says, do I really even need to fucking see it? He says, come up and have a look at it. So went up and had a look at it. Cracking, really, really nice property. Traditional bay windows, high ceilings, cornicing, everything really, really nice. But it was 1970 inside this. There's actually a place in Coatbridge you visit and it's like the 20s and it's the way properties are. This is what it was, right? So I was like, holy shit. So went into this and I just had a good vision. I was like, I could really batter this and do a load of great stuff here. Having confidence in your end values and confidence in the rent that I could get for it, I was like, right, this is a winner. Now, I already had a lot of friends who are in trades, and like my joiners were my good mates. My plumber was an ex-gym member because it was obviously in Wishaw, so I knew he had a plumbing business. My spark, I knew like loads of guys. My painter was an ex-gym member. So I was like, right, I need this team. I need you to come in and price it and blah, 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 this, that, and the next thing. So they came in, started doing all the work. We were knocking down walls, so we were dealing with building control. My brother-in-law is an architect, which really helps as well. Gas central heating. It was things that would scare people, like, oh, you need to get gas central heating in for the outside. So I'm like, right, how do we do this? Spoke to SGN, way easier than I thought it was going to be. Got gas central heating in, changed the kitchen configuration, extended the bathroom, knocked down the bathroom, changed the rooms about, painted it, floored it, everything. The roof was a shambles, done all the roof, got rid of all the damp. Was into it for 115, got a revaluation back at 165 grand. Whoa. Pulled 52,750 out and was into it for 51,000 something. Pulled all my money out plus a wee bit extra. Fired it on and says, this will go out and rent for 1,200 a month. One a guy who I really like, runs a big property auction place, looks like Tyson Fury, says there's no way that will go for 1,200. And then messaged him the next day saying, let agreed. He's like, that fucking hell. So, massive big refurb. But what I would say is, learning-wise, brilliant. Like, easily the best thing I've done, because we had problems with leaks. We went through the floor. Actually, I meant to say that as well. We went through the floor into the downstairs neighbour.
So not intentionally. Can I just get a hole in and just say, hi, can we take this, please?
That's basically, I was trying to watch her telly. I was like, is that Channel 3 you're watching?
That episode is still
I'm interested in buying your property. Is now a good chance to talk about it?
Since we're here.
Spiral staircase.
The annoying thing was, we were drilling up. So the ceiling that we were doing, the ceiling was a shambles because it was like old plaster and just shitty, and there was no way that the plaster was going to be able to plaster it flush, right? So we're like, right, we'll fit boards to it, chip rock boards, whatever, we'll plane it out. So we're drilling up. That's a Sunday, 3:45 p.m. Drilling up. Oh, me and my guy, my joiner, erratic chap at the door. And usually on a refurb, if there's an erratic chap at the door, I kind of go,
shit's gone wrong.
Just fucking leave it.
I'm water at that point, by the way. I'm going, that's water or gas. Use the water.
Erratic, right? And I'm like, because it opens the door, and there's a wee old woman with like water on her hair. Oh. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And she's like, my roof's coming in. And I'm like that. My joiner, Brian, great guy. He's with me at the time. And I'm like, really? How is this possible? And he's a trade guy, right? He's a trade guy in and out. So he's grabbing tools as we're walking. He's getting things thrown at him as we're walking downstairs, grabbing tools. And I'm like, he's fucking on it. So he goes down and there was a leak in the bathroom that was going down the stairs that had went through her kitchen ceiling that luckily went right into the sink and was dripping into the sink, but there was a big cone getting into her sink, right? So I'm like, fuck. I'm thinking fuck for two reasons. Number one, the new fancy flooring tile is down in the bathroom everywhere. That leak's fucking under there, and we've got a problem here. Now, taking it back, I just thought, again, maybe going back to that whole, like, shutting the gym down, how can I make sure everybody's happy in the best possible way here? She's just been watching Strictly Come Dancing and her fucking ceiling's coming in. That's not her problem. Like, that's not her fault. How do we fix that? So I was like, right, we had to cut the ceiling out. We had to stop all the water off at the top end, stop the leak, get a big bag of rubble, clear it all out and all that, phone my plasterer, phone my painter. Within the space of a couple of hours, that was sorted, you know. The next morning, my plumber's in, battering my tiles to fix the leak. Now, again, what I will say is, one of the things you learn, my plumber was having a baby at the time. The week before, there was a nut that was sitting there with some stuff on it. I'm like, I'll fire that in.
No.
I'll fire that in. I'm an ex-heating engineer. I'll fire that in.
I'm an ex-heating engineer 20 odd years ago.
And him and I had this unspoken, he came out to have a look at it and fix it and all that, and we had an unspoken understanding that was me. And he's like that. I said to him after it, and
no
he's
more
like,
spoken, just looking at each other going,
well, this is it. I said to him
He's
after
got
it,
that spinning it, and it's just like that.
he was at another job of mine, and we're talking away, and I says, that was me, that done that. And he's like, I didn't want to point the blame. He says, I just wanted to fix the problem. He says, but it was 100% you.
He's like, at no point any elbows.
So I'm like, shit. So, number one, leave the trade work to the trades guys. Number two, make sure that you can fix the problem quickly. And it's gave me such capacity for taking on bigger projects and doing refurbs now. The one I've just bought there will be some form of internal refurb as well. But now I'm not scared of that. Now I look at it as there's problems here that may scare even a lot of investors off, may scare a lot of people off. But if they can be fixed and you're confident in your numbers, then great.
And how many are you rattling through just now then? Are you doing, many are you doing, like, are you doing one a month, or are you like from start to finish, and what's your average kind of time it's taken?
So the year 2025, this year, I wanted to get 13 properties bought by the end of the year. That would have took me to like that 30 number, as opposed to 30 by 2030. It would be 30 by like 2026. I've bought 3 so far this year. And what is this? April. So I'm a wee bit behind, to be honest with you. But the one I've just bought is an all money out deal. It's a couple of weeks before the refinance is done. That'll just go into another one. Took on a wee bit of private finance this year as well. Probably going to push that a wee bit more. There's a couple of different people who have came to me that I've built relationships with that are saying like, right, okay, we'll give you some dough. So I think that'll allow me to scale quicker because I'm showing that I'm confident with my numbers and my end values, and I'm building a bit of credibility to go, no, he actually knows what he's talking about. You know, so once that's done and once I can be in and out of deals quickly, then that should allow me to scale quicker.
I'd love to know, like, last I heard or saw was it £2 million portfolio you got?
Yeah.
Growing now as of this. 40 million businesses somewhere else doing whatever else. I think you've got a young family as well. Like, how do you find time, structure, or like how? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you do like a Sunday? This is my Sunday graph, and I'll do this. And a Monday, I'll do this. I think I was before doing like Wednesdays, your viewing days and stuff like that. How do you set a week out for you and still do everything like that? Yeah.
So I've got there's a way I structure my week, and Monday was always like a gym business day, where it was like I'd make sure that the numbers were right and everything. I've just exited that as well, which I'll touch on. Tuesdays was a training academy day. Wednesday was a viewing day. Thursday was a meeting day. Friday was a review day. Saturday, Sunday, fully off. Now, people maybe look at it and they'll go like, what happens if a viewing, what happens if the agent can't do a Wednesday and they can only do a Tuesday or a Thursday or a Friday? The deal goes. What happens if that meeting guy can't do, he can only do 8 p.m. on a Monday night? The meeting doesn't happen.
Mm.
And it's prioritising what's important to you, because I know at 8 p.m. on a Monday night, I'm putting Mila down to go to sleep. And that's way more important than any fucking meeting at all.
Aye.
Because you could close £1 million for that meeting. Yep. See, when she's 7, she's never going to be 2 again. And she's never going to be 3 again.
Aye.
And that's worth way more. So I prioritise my health. I make sure that I train every day. I make sure that I get some form of activity in. I prioritise my family. I prioritise, I go out and shoot pool every Tuesday night with my mate. I see my mates at the weekend for a lunch. I have specific things that I know that I need to do, and I have specific days that I know that I need to do them. And if it falls out with that, then you just have to be confident in yourself and strong enough to go, okay, well, we can reschedule it for the following Thursday. There's been so many times where I've spoke to agents and I've been like, oh, can I do Wednesday? They can only do Tuesdays and Thursdays. All right, what about the following Wednesday? Let me have a look. Ida can do that. Right? And it's just because it's maybe not convenient to them, but you have to be a bit selfish with your time and a bit selfish with how you're structuring your day. You know, like I know that nothing's going to stop me if you're training. Like,
so what do? You get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, you're like training 5:30, 5:45, you're meditating. Is it that kind of
What's the morning routine? I dip my face in ice water. I wake up and I dip my face in ice water 3 times a day.
Rub banana peel on your face.
So I will wake up probably around about maybe 6, sometimes 5:30. I will either get a certain amount of steps in, or I will head to the gym. I'll drink 2 litres of water pretty much upon wakening. I'll wait 90 minutes before I have my 5-shot espresso coffee, which a lot of people know me for.
Seen that before.
And then I will usually start my working day probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock, to be honest. But I make sure there's weird things that I do in a day, right, to make sure that I do what I need to do. I learn a new word every day through an app called Vocab. I do 1 Duolingo lesson a day, have done for years. I make sure that I play guitar 4 hours a week. I do Wim Hof breathing once a day. And I train, and then everything else goes around that. You know, the working is then set to whatever day it is. You know.
What are you learning? Duolingo?
Spanish.
All right.
Yeah, my wife's a Spanish and French teacher. And Spanish, believe it or not, is the language spoken in most languages around the world, ahead of English. Spoken by most is Mandarin, because there's the most people, but spoken in most countries is Spanish. So, and I might buy property in Spain at one point as well. So I need to know. To know how to say below market value in Spanish.
No, it's pretty cool to hear that, because I had somebody say to me one day, I can't believe you start your day at 9, because my morning is I take Ruby to school. That's always been my thing. I wanted to get into property. That was my thing. Do the school runs. Not necessarily always the pickups, because there's things that need to happen now, but the school runs in the morning, go and do that. And he's like, I can't believe you start at 9 o'clock. I'm like, well, the school is literally across the road from me, so it is generally just like 5 to 9, 10 to 9. I said, but I can do things in the morning before then. I can still get up and do like the email list, set up everything I need to do that day, like the kind of wee stuff that you don't need a personal interaction with. And I'm like, so me starting at 9, that's my priority, is to get her to school. That's what I want to do. Like you say, she's never going to be 5, 6, 7 again. So you're not going to get that chance to go through all those emotions again. So I'll start my day at 9 o'clock. He's like, that's just a waste of time. I'm like, all right, okay. That's your priority.
Nobody on their deathbed ever had a good conversation about what a quarter they had at the end of the year. Never happened.
That's a brilliant quote. It
never happened.
Very, very true.
They weren't interested in seeing the spreadsheet on their laptop before they died. So I am building my wealth and quote unquote empire, if you will, for my daughter, for sure. But if you want to work and make loads of money so that you can take your daughter to school, and in my case, nursery, why don't you just take her there now?
Yeah.
Like, what? I don't understand it, you know? Like, everything that you do, I think, personally, comes back to your kids. And I had a great relationship with my mum and my dad, to be honest. But I would hate to be absent to make another £1 million and waste all that. This sounds very arrogant, right? I'm going to make a load of money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm super confident of that. I'm going to build a massive portfolio. I'll scale companies, I'll grow them, and that's what I'll be known for. See if I make an extra 5 million because I sacrificed that time. How the fuck is that worth it?
No.
That's insane. Yeah. You know, if I make 25 instead of 20 million, what's the difference? I'd rather spend that time, you know, and that's an intrinsic priority as a father for me.
Mm-hmm. I walk the wee man. I go to the gym, do the same thing, just the same routine. I read, in fact, Atomic Habits as well.
Oh, yeah, great book, yeah.
And it was just like 28 days you've got to be sticking to it. And so I just do the whole 6:15 gym. I've got to meditate because I know you think I might be hyper than now, but without it, trust me, it's fucking off the rocker.
Yep.
But then my son's 13 and I'll walk the dog and him up halfway to school until he sees his pals and then obviously he's too cool.
Yeah.
To what we go.
But I've got about 8 minutes.
Yep.
Right? And I've very cleverly, instead of going, what are you up to at school today, it's just other ways of asking the same questions. And I find more out in the 8 minutes. And then my wife will be like, what have we done? I'm like, right, this.
Yeah.
And it's 18 things. And all the time he waits for me sometimes if I'm running late to walk up to school with him now. And I think it's worth its weight in gold.
100%.
Honestly. And it just...
Because that's the stuff you remember, and that's the stuff he remembers. You know, like that's very, very pivotal, you know, as opposed to just rushing through things.
And now that he's 13, like I was saying earlier, now he's 13, all he wants to do is be... He's actually said to me the other day, I said, what are you going to do when you're older? And he's like, I'll be rich.
Nice.
Right, that's it. And then he said to me, actually 2 weeks ago, he goes, is it wrong if I kind of take your business and follow it on?
It's outstanding.
And I'm like that. No, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm like that. Can you do it earlier? And I can just retire earlier?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, look,
that's amazing.
When are you happy to start that?
Yeah. That's a great mindset to adopt. You know?
I was going to also want to be respectful of time and stuff like that as well, but obviously you're a very busy man. But there's a couple of things, one you touched on, but what I want to know is like burnout moments. You've obviously had a lot going on. You know, days you do certain things. You ever got to a point where you're like just burnt out, and like how do you overcome that? Is there things you put in place so you don't become burnt out? Things like going like playing guitar, that's your thing, and or whatever.
2023, I think it was 2023. I on a Sunday night, I've never told anyone this either. Well, people know. I on a Sunday night went to Asda, drove down to Asda in Hamilton. Got food in a trolley or in a basket, went to go and pay for it, the self-scan, everything as normal, and then woke up in an ambulance. So basically...
What a shop that was.
Yeah.
Was that a big bill?
Prices, I couldn't believe it. A fucking Muller yogurt £5, Jesus. A Freddo's 40 pence.
That grenade bars. Look at the fucking price of them.
I know the minimum order quantity.
So what happened there?
Basically, I still don't know. So I've watched the video back. I watched the video back once with my staff at that Wishaw site.
Was that as it happened in Asda then?
Aye, in Asda. And they were upset about it, watching it, because it was a terrible watch. I remember feeling kind of weird. I remember feeling like a bit tired or something. And then I got to the self-scan and I was really confused. And I knew I was confused. I was like, I don't know what to do here. And I kind of paced back and forth. And I remember a woman saying something to me like, is everything all right or whatever? I said, I need to take a seat. And I sat down at the self-scan, and in the video I turned back like that as if I'm looking at something, and then I just go into a full seizure.
Jesus.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm out. And the annoying thing is the CCTV footage and stuff, you can see all of that. And the annoying thing is, I think I was out for a wee bit because I don't remember coming to until the paramedics got there. And you wonder, what was that, 10 minutes maybe? 7 minutes, 8 minutes? That was probably a wee bit of time. I think what happened was 2022 it was. That's what I remember. 2022. So I'd started up a new business in the August, set up that gym site, had Mila in the April, first baby. Father got cancer. My dad he's still alive. My dad got cancer as I was opening up that gym. My stepmom and my mum and stepdad get divorced. What else was going on? That day, this sounds minuscule, but that day I had just completed a exam for guitar. I had trained that morning and been super caffeinated. I was fasting, so I hadn't ate anything till like 8 p.m, right? Perfect storm.
Sorry, so when you said it was a surprise,
you look back and go, actually, that's about right.
Have you ever read the thing? It's like the 10 stresses.
Right.
You should read it. The 10 stresses.
Probably that's about
7
5
of them
that.
you've just named.
but that's what I mean, right? So I had all of this, and obviously I'm running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and the new baby, I'm getting 2 hours sleep a night and stuff, and it's wild, right? So that happened, and I ended up in hospital, and the hospital basically came back, and they're like, I was at that night actually, and they're like, can't really see anything. Your bloods have come back fine, scans have come back fine. We don't really know, and I think maybe it was just a bit of that, to be honest. Just a bit of everything. So you could say that's where you kind of realise your breaking point a wee bit. Mm-hmm. Have things changed since then? I eat better now. I'm still trying to lose more weight from what I was doing, but I eat better now. I don't caffeinate as much. I was having pre-workouts and all that at the time. Don't think it was that great, to be honest.
And your 4 shots,
No, that was before I moved to coffee. I was having like 600 milligram of caffeine, which was definitely no good.
Just caffeine.
Just pure caffeine, no coffee. Didn't drink coffee at the time. So
brilliant.
So all of that probably was the perfect storm. And obviously there's external factors that you can't, like your dad having cancer and your mum getting a divorce and moving out.
If you're in a better position with taking care of yourself and like caffeine and everything else,
would have been way different. And ate a fucking meal that day would have probably helped as well.
Just everything combined into one, obviously, and then that's just how it's happened. So, but the thing you've taken on board is look after yourself better, because of any of the external factors you can't control, at least you can control.
That's probably why I started a lot of the breathing stuff, and like that's before I done the Duolingo and this, that, and the next thing. And there's probably that. My personality. I was slightly annoyed that my body wasn't able to deal with that. I was angry at my own. I was like, "You absolute bitch! What do you mean you
I thought you were going to say, I can't believe I was out for 8 minutes. That's an embarrassment.
I can't believe. I do remember it was a wee bit scary, because I remember when I woke up, I knew that something was off because I'm lying down and there's paramedics, and it felt as though I woke up from a very deep sleep. And I remember trying to speak and I couldn't speak. And I just went, fuck.
Oh, shit.
Like, I know this is something, But I was fine. I was all right.
You're like, where's my watch?
I fucking minute.
And just the last thing, again, if we've got the time for it, because you've mentioned closing a business.
Mm-hmm.
You've also then, I'm sure I had to exit a business.
Mm-hmm.
And learning from that. Like, obviously, getting into business, you have these plans of getting into business, but there must be some point at the end of it.
Yeah.
Exit strategies, all these kind of things. Like, are you able to talk about that at all?
Yeah, so I like the fact that it will be me going through pretty much every aspect of business. COVID shutting down a business, closing a business, selling a business. What else can you do? The gym business, I'm in the process of finalising the exit to my number 2, who's been with me for 12, 13 years.
Nice.
So I'm selling him that business just for the sole fact that he can grow it, he can push it, he can drive it. He's very passionate about doing that. Makes him a lot more money as well. I don't have the passion to grow and drive the fitness business that I once had many years ago. I'm in the process of setting up a couple of decent property businesses. Probably going to open up an estate agent, probably going to open up a home improvement side, a letting side, an insurance side, that's all in the works just now. I'm in the process of buying.
Shop for investors,
Yeah,
whatever.
Because I'm potentially buying a business now that's been operating for a while. That's an estate agents, and I'm going to either plug that in or I'm just going to grow and scale my own thing, and that's really my passion moving forward. Is that because I love property and I feel as though I can do a better job than a lot of the ones that are currently doing it. So at one point, my life was the fitness business. As you grow and age and experience, things change, and now my passion is property, and I think that I'm always a big believer that the most important thing you can do in business is get in the right opportunity vehicle, and secondly is to then push it and grow it. And if I'm in the wrong opportunity vehicle or I can't scale it as much as I can, I could work 200% of that business, or I could get in a property business and work 10% and make way more money than I would there. I always say like the janitor will work a lot harder than the hedge fund guy, but the hedge fund guy will make more money than the janitor will in a lifetime within 30 minutes because he's in the right vehicle. Yeah. So property for me is the right vehicle for the next decade plus moving forward. So I'm in the process of selling that business to then open that other business.
When will you be opening this other business? Last
summertime.
Oof, that's impressive.
Things will be finalised 15th of May, and we're on the 20th of April just now. So everything's put in the back end of it so far, and it'll be a real big push come summertime.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's an exclusive. Heard to your first.
That's very good.
We release that on May 14th. Just
exactly.
just in case.
Tomorrow.
Coming soon. Good, brilliant.
So I mean, we could sit here for hours, couldn't we?
Yeah.
It literally blew our mind. I think really impressive. I mean, I was writing down all the things. I ran out of ink. One point, I'm at bodybuilding, SQA qualifications. I think at one point I was like, I don't know if he's a businessman or a property person, and I'm probably going to go with businessman, right? I really appreciate your time. Listen, thanks very much.
Thank you very much for having me in.
Absolutely fantastic.
Amazing to be here.
And they want to do, I suppose, do you do like sourcing at all? Do you do bring on investors? You say you're raising funds. Like, how can people contact you?
Yeah, so I think I'm active on all platforms, and the reason why I say I think because I've got a couple of VAs that just post loads of stuff for me, so you'll probably see like loads of clips posted. None of it's me, I can't take credit, but I'm on Instagram at Andrew McGee Investor. I'm on LinkedIn, Andrew McGee, and I'm on YouTube as Andrew McGee, I think. I'll need to ask him that, but I'm on there. But you'll find me on all the regular social media.
We'll plug them in the descriptions at the bottom as well. So.
Brilliant.
Good.
Ideal.
I'm good for that.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.